Welcome to this lesson for creating to-do list in a Flask. First of all, we need to create a folder for our application. So I will name it to-do list app. After that, we will cd inside that directory, and now we need to create virtual environment by typing virtualenv and then the 3.6 Python location you have. So I have it in my user directory under local and then cellular. I use Pro to install it, so it's in the default location. So and then Python 3 and then 3.3.6 3.6.3 and after that bin and then Python 3.6 and I will give it name, for example, like to-do env. Now our virtual environment is installed successfully, so I need just to activate it by doing source to-do env bin and then I will type activate. Now our virtual environment is active, as you see here. Now we need to install a Flask by typing pip install Flask. Now our Flask is successfully installed. To see all the package, you just need to run pip freeze, and you see here that a Flask is installed. So now we need just to save all of these model and package to some text file for later use. So you just need to run pip freeze and then name of text file. You want to put all the package in any name you want, but I am normally use requirements.txt because it's the standard for the Python application. Now I will open this application folder in my favorite text editor, which is Atom. I will create normal Python file called to-do rest.py, and the first thing we need to do is importing the Flask from Flask import Flask, and we need another thing which is request, and third thing response actually it starts with capital letter, and finally we need JSONify, which will use to convert our response to JSON format. Second thing, we need to create a Flask app. So we define variable called app and then initialize it with the Flask inside this module. Finally, we need to set this app to debug equal true, so we will run the application in debug mode. Now we need to create a class that represents each item in the to-do list. So I will define a class called item, and I will, for example, say it have let's say that each item have ID as a string, title as a string, and description, for example, as a string. Now we need to create initializer, def init, and then we give it self, ID, and title, and description, disk. And now we need to assign these to the variable property of this class. So self.id equal the ID coming, self.title equal title coming, self.description equal the description coming parameter. Now we need to convert this, the object of this class, to JSON format. So there is two ways to do that. The simple way is just define method called toJSON and then define variable called in JSON, for example, in JSON format equal, and then ID, which is self, initialize it to self.id, and then title, which is self.title, and finally we have description to self.description. Make sure that these JSON properties match with your class, so when you need to create the object again from the JSON, it matches, so you don't need to do another mapping. Now there's another, now we need of course to return this, return in JSON. Now we need to, there is another way to do that, and it's simpler than this one. It's div, for example, to JSON2, and then we just need to return the dictionary, which is represent the object of this class, which is having to be self.dict. So this two-way is identical, is the same. Whatever you prefer, you can use. But I prefer this one because sometimes we need to manipulate the data, especially when it's coming from the MongoDB, which we will speak about it later. So now we need to create list in memory to hold all of the to-do item. So we will say to-do list, and we will initialize it with empty list. Now we will start adding some item to this list, which is item 1 equal item, and then the ID will be, for example, 1, sorry, this doesn't seem to be in this way, and then we need title. The title will be learn flask, for example, and then we need I keep adding these disk, which is start learning flask, for example, and all of these doesn't need to be in equal, not by JSON. It's just, we just need to initialize the object now, not converting it to JSON. Now we need to create another item, for example, so it's item 2, similar, this is 2, learning spring, for example, start learning spring framework. Now we need to append these, so I will use both of these methods to append it to the list in JSON format. So the first one I will use to JSON, and the second one I will use to JSON too. So now to do list dot append the first one, which is item dot to JSON, and the second one I will say to do list dot append, and then I will say item 2 dot to JSON 2. So I will prove that by doing this, that's both of them is identical. So this is item 1 actually, not item. So now we have both of the item in the list. So now we're ready to create our first route. So the route is just the endpoint, which we need to hit through the get HTTP method to return all the list in our to-do list, or the item in our to-do list actually. So I will use the decorator in the app called route, and it takes string like your endpoint. So we will say to do, and then for example list. So this is the first endpoint. We speak about it in the last lesson. Now we need to define method for this. Def get all to do's, and it simply will be just return. Now we will use the JSONify module, JSONify, and it will take the to-do list. So now what's this doing actually? This take this list and convert it to JSON format as a list of JSON format actually. So now we need to run this app. So we say if name equal to main app.run. So let's see if that app is running correctly. So we clear this, we say Python, and then the name of the file to do list.py. We have some cannot import JSON. Actually, it's not JSON, it's JSONify. Not JSON. It's JSONify. It's typo here. So again, take 0 to JSON. Oh, sorry. We have to add self to this, and this need to have self because it's object method. Now it's running. As you see, the Flask application is running on our local host on port 500 by default. So, but you can change that by giving here, like for example, if you need to change the running port, you can say port and then equal, for example, 8181, and this would run it on port 8181. I will show you. I'll stop this, and then I will run it again, and as you see here again, it's running on 8181. By default, it's run on port 500, but you can change that. So now this is the base URL for all of our endpoint. So let's test it. To test it, we just need to use Postman. If you are not familiar with Postman, you can download it and familiarize yourself with it from this URL, which is Get Postman. It's a great application from Google to test the URL to test the REST application. So let's open Postman, and now our application is HTTP. Then we need the 127.0.0.1 and then 8181, and then our endpoint, which is to do and then list. If you click on send here, JSONify is not defined. JSONify again, we have another issue here, which is this one, JSONify, and this will stop the application. Actually no, it's not, so it's still running. So if we run that again, we get all the list in that in memory. We have it for the to-do list. As you see, it's identical to the property which is defined in this class. And this is all for this lesson, to create our first route to return all the items in the to-do list. And the next lesson we will create the post or creating a new to-do list from Postman. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next lesson.